Okay, so hello YouTube, this is the Hoto Hot Glue Gun, and let's say we had a jam in it. You had to take it apart in order to fix it. So here's a guide on how to take it apart. So the things that you need is a screwdriver with a long head and a tweezer, because there are some things that we're gonna have to like stick in and go deep to get to it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get into this back part here. So this is just a rubber seal. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to take your needle nose tweezers, so that's why you need some sharp tweezers. You need to go in through the edge, and we're going to try and pry it. We're going to go in through the edge, we're going to go inside there, and we're just going to try and lift it up. Okay, so we pop it off. Now see two screws in there, so we're going to just remove those two screws as well. Okay, so now that you remove the two screws, you still can't remove the case first. So the next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to come in and remove, their screws underneath this label, and we're going to come and remove this. So again, we have to remove this label. Okay, so you can remove this sticker, and then we remove these screws. Now these two screws are special. They're going to be different from any other screw that you remove from the glue gun, because they're flat, while the others have a round top. Okay, so once you remove these screws, you can just pop this cover, and you can see the insides. Okay, next we're gonna remove this back cover. So what you're gonna do is you want to push this up and pull it off. So when you push it up, so that it can come loose, and then push it off. But you have to do it upside down, because this power button is gonna fall. The moment you push it up, it's gonna fall off. Okay, so remember, you can just grip it like this, use your thumb, push the force down while pulling this body part down. Okay, and again, do it like this so that the power button doesn't go anywhere. So you see it's separated, and then we're just gonna pull it out. So see, this power button will immediately fall off. So that's why you have to do it upside down. Okay, so now we're gonna have to remove the front. So same thing, take the tweezers, go into the edges and dig out the flap. Yeah, you might damage the silicone flap. So this thing is gonna come out unscathed. So we're just gonna want to lift up this one is gonna be a bit tougher. So what we're doing is we're trying to just lift up the feet where it connects. So gently take the whole silicone cover off first, and then just pull it straight out. You don't want to like twist it because that's where the nozzle is. Okay, so now the nozzle is out, and we have 2 screws here. Okay, so there are 2 screws in front. Just unscrew them first and try and get the screws out carefully. You don't want them to fall into the body right now, because that would be irritating. So the round screws seem like they're the same size as the others, so you can keep them together. Okay, now if you just try to pull out the case, you will notice that it's actually a bit jammed. So what happens is that you need to, they for some reason they molded it. They molded the tip. So for some reason they molded the tip. There's a little blockage there, so you have to take a tweezer. You have to like push it this side. You have to just wrench it a bit. Okay, I was wrong. So you actually push it like you leverage it like this. So you're gonna force the cover out. You're gonna force the cover out this side. So just leverage it. We're gonna leverage it this way. Okay, we're gonna just push it in. We're gonna jam the tweezers in, and just yank it this way while pushing out the cover. Okay, and it'll come out. Okay, next, you see that there are 6 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 screws. So of course we're just going to unscrew them. But one thing to remember, to be aware of, is there are actually some springs. So there's a spring here. Yeah, so there's a spring here. You can just see it right here. And actually there's another spring underneath the trigger. So just be careful that doesn't just shoot out everywhere once you open the case. So we're just going to be a bit careful about it. Be mindful. So the screws seem to be just a little bit longer than the case one, but I think they're fairly interchangeable, so it should be fine. If you accidentally mix them up, maybe I myself already mixed them up. Okay, so now that the screws are out, we're just gonna so you see there's a circle board here, so we're just gonna carefully vertically lift it up. So the moment you lift it up, the trigger might want to shoot out because of the spring, so just carefully. Okay. Okay, so now that this is open, you can now have access to like removing any parts of the glue gun that got jammed. Okay, so I have a glue stick in here right now, so you can see that it's right here. It's inside here, so it's actually keeping. If you didn't have a glue stick in here, this whole assembly is going to just pop off because there's springs everywhere, so it's just going to pop off. So with a glue stick, it's sort of inside the gun, it sort of helps it hold together, and it might give you a better job, easier task of doing it. But then again, we're opening it up to clear jams, so maybe you might just want to start yanking or something. So if you have to, you could turn it on to heat up the nozzle. Just be careful when you're doing it, and you can just heat it up by holding the button, because remember the button is actually here. You can turn it on and heat it up to pull out whatever thing that's being jammed in here. And just take note of how the thing goes back in, like the position of the nozzle, because remember this whole thing can come off. Okay, this whole thing is going to just pop off because of the spring and everything. So just remember that it seats perfectly back in when you put it back in. Just understand where the positions are and where it goes back in. Okay, so take note of the mechanism of the trigger, because when you open this, it's just gonna spew out because of all the springs. So if this whole trigger mechanism pops out for you, don't worry too much about it. You don't have to freak out too much. There's actually just one fulcrum point for this whole assembly. So see this peg here, there's a peg here, it actually just goes down to a hole, so you'll be able to feel that it actually sits back down there. And if the springs fall off, you don't worry too much about it, because if the springs do fall off, so if the springs fall off, there are different size springs. The one at the back is smaller, and the one in the trigger is bigger. So what you have to do is just that the thing that you have to just be aware of is that the orientation of the spring. There's a hook here where the spring anchors to, and then there's a pillar where the spring connects to. So the main thing is that the spring itself has a different angle. The spring itself has a different angle orientation. So you slip one loop over the hook, and then you make sure that the other circle is wrapped around the pillar. So when you put it back together, just make sure you just do that. Handling this spring and making sure everything goes back in correctly is going to be the hardest part of putting it back together again. So after you clear whatever jam is in the glue gun, you're gonna put it back together. We're gonna start putting it back together now. So the first thing is make sure the nozzle and everything is seated properly. And if the springs fell out, I would say put the small one at the back here first, reattach this, and then reattach the one in the trigger. So I'm going to try and do that. So this is going to be difficult. So first you hook in the hook, and then we loop it through the pillar. Okay. Now another tricky part is, because there's tension all over you with the springs, you have to just like keep it down while you carefully push the cover back down. So when you push the cover back down, remember that there are a few catches to make sure that position the circuit board in the right place. And there's this hole has to go into the trigger point. Okay, so yeah, it's a bit tricky. Since there are springs involved. So I'm holding down the whole assembly with my thumb there to give it so that it doesn't try to fly out. Okay. Okay, so the cover is back in. Just make sure that, you should go perfectly back in. Just make sure that there's nothing, you can hold it when you hold it down, it's closed and it doesn't feel like any wires are pinched. Because obviously it feels like it wants to pop out because, you know, the springs, but you should be able to like hold it closed. Okay, so once you see that the cover is gonna close, you're gonna just start screwing the cover back in then. So once you start screwing it partially, you should be able to like, so I screwed the top and the trigger one here, so you can feel that, okay, the trigger and everything should be moving and turning smoothly. And then, so if there's any jam or something, you should probably try and fix that. So once you put all the screws back in, we just double check that everything is fit and everything. I mean, it should be nicely closed up. There shouldn't be any gaps or anything. Everything should just be held up together. So now we can start putting the case back in. Okay, so we're just gonna replacing cover fairly straightforward. Just push the cover back in. It should just go in smoothly. And then carefully screw back the two screws again. You wouldn't want them to fall. Let's see if it falls. Then just for the cover, just push it in. I'm just gonna push it in so that it probably might want to clean the nozzle before you do this. So now that the cover, the front cover is in, we're gonna put in back cover. Okay, for the back cover, so what you do is first you put the power button back. I don't think the orientation matters, so you can either put it this way or the other way. So you put the power button back in first, and of course then you have to hold it upside down so it doesn't fall out. Then you just remember that we have to push it slightly up, so just it doesn't go, that means it doesn't go perfectly straight in a bit, it just offset to the top a bit. Then just carefully, just, well, you just don't want the power button to fall out of the chamber when you push it in. Okay, so we're gonna just meet up. So the main thing is that it will close first, not that it closes first. The seams will close first, then only slide it down. Okay, so once this is in, then we can now start screwing everything back in. I guess before you actually screw in everything, now might be a good time to just like try the power button and make sure that it still turns on and everything. Because remember that this outer part is just a shell for cosmetic purposes. So you see that the power turns on and everything, turn it back off. And we can start screwing everything back in. Okay, last two screws. Oh damn, I pressed the power button again. So yeah, be careful when you're doing all this. You don't accidentally press the power button unknowingly and burn yourself. So now that you've screwed in everything, the last thing to do is to just push this silicone cap back in. So the only last thing is to just, there's a particular orientation as to go in. So, yep, just pop it in. Yeah, 没有砸到你，不用紧。So just make sure it's the right orientation and just close it up. And that's it. That's how to take apart and take apart the Hoto Glue Gun. I don't know why people advertise it as a Xiao Mi Hoto Glue Gun, but that's how you do it. It seems like this is an older version, so there's a newer version that auto feeds the glue while when you press the trigger. So I'm not sure how much different it's going to be, but shouldn't be that much difference. So there might be more mechanisms at the front at the nozzle, but overall taking apart the thing should be quite similar.